Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so normally I don't stop eating to make some content, make a content. Nah, but right now I literally have a meal in front of me, and I'm just gonna pause it because I just got through seeing a picture of Ben Simmons. He posted on his IG, and he looks like he's in shape. He looks like he's working, and it just took me to an entirely different place because I'm like, they got a player coming into the league right now that I think profiles to be basically Ben Simmons, and that's Amen Thompson. And when I look at Amen Thompson, that's basically what I see there is a guy who has super athleticism. He's not quite as tall as Ben Simmons, but his abilities athletically is going to make it so that he can do everything that you wanted Ben Simmons to do back in the day. All the stuff that they drafted Ben to be, all of the weaknesses and the strengths that I was concerned with Ben, Amen has them all. But the thing about it is they got a chance to do Amen's career correctly. And that's really what it comes down to for me. Amen Thompson is a guy who is going to be able to facilitate like a madman, just like Ben Simmons. He's going to be best with the ball in his hands, but he cannot necessarily hit a jumper. Ben Simmons. Now, I was listening to some of the scouts that were talking about Amen Thompson, and one of the concerns that they had in regards to his shooting is not just that he doesn't make them, but that he doesn't take them. Ben Simmons. So for me, it's like, all right, they gotta learn. Whoever drafts Amen Thompson needs to take data from Ben Simmons, in my humble opinion. Not that I know everything I'm talking about, because they're not the same player, but they have the same strengths, and you're likely going to need to build around them the same way. Big point guards that can't shoot, but can defend and have a strength for passing and can get to the basket with absolute ease. Probably should be able to rebound very well. Probably should be able to dunk the ball repeatedly. But Ben Simmons kind of lost his confidence. The thing about it is this. Ben Simmons' situation, in my humble opinion, has to do a lot with mental health. His mental health wasn't quite where it needed to be throughout the course of the start of his career, and as a result, certain things that were in line with his development basketball-wise, I think were derailed by that. Not to say I can assume anything of Amen Thompson, but I just assume he comes in an entirely different space with just some of the same strengths and weaknesses basketball-wise, which means I don't think he should be a problem trying to teach him how to attempt three-point shots throughout the course of developing him. And that's been the challenge with Ben. If you can't get Ben to not be too afraid to shoot, then it's obviously going to be difficult to try to work him into any offense. Amen Thompson is going to have to be worked into the equation as somebody who's going to be a willing shooter. Not to say that it matters to me too much that he shoots over 30% necessarily, because I'm not asking him to be a three-point shooter. I'm just saying that some of the things that go down against Ben Simmons defensively and against guys like Russell Westbrook defensively cannot happen with Amen Thompson if he wants to develop into the player that he ultimately wants to become. Now, I don't look at his brother the same way. Notice I didn't mention Azur. For one, Azur's three-point shot seems to be coming along, so it looks like he might get to a point where his three-point shot will be reliable enough for a team. And two, he's not a point guard. Ausar Thompson is actually a small forward shooting guard combination. I kind of got him slotted as a shooting guard, even though he probably is best at the three. Point is, you're not going to necessarily ask Ausar to do any of the things that you're going to ask Amen to do. You're going to have them doing different stuff. They just happen to have similar strengths from different positions. So picture the difference between Draymond Green, and this is just an example, but it's not really a real example, and Ben Simmons. You say they played alike in some ways. They're different alike in some ways. They're even the same size as it pertains to just their position is different. That's the thing. You're going to have Draymond play the 4, and you're going to have Ben Simmons play the 1, and that's what's going to separate them. That's exactly how I look at Amen Thompson and Ausar Thompson. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly how I look at them. So for me, it's like I don't need my power forward, a shooting guard, or small forward necessarily to be a three-point threat too much for them to be able to be played out there, because I'm going to put the ball in the point guard's hand and then allow them to play off of that however they can. You can get in where you fit in. Maybe you have like a role that allows for you not to need to shoot. Let's say Vanderbilt. Maybe I'm asking Ausar Thompson to be a higher end Vanderbilt, right? Who can do a little more with the ball in his hands, a little more athletic. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But ultimately, it's not imperative to him to have to make shots. He don't have to. You know what I mean? Vanderbilt It would help if he hits shots. We find him in the corner, he hits him, it make the difference. But it ain't like, yo, we can never get him in the game because it's such an easy play for the defense to go against. So for me, it's like, as I assess where Amen Thompson goes, I've done my mock draft. I had him go 3rd to Portland. I had Ausar go to 6th to Orlando, which most people do from what I've seen. But as I'm considering what it is that needs to happen, I think that the team that gets Amen Thompson probably needs him to have the offense to himself and then a bunch of Jordan Hawkins, Grady Dick type shooters around him so he can get them the ball, and the spacing issues that come from him not shooting as much can be offset by the highest order of shooters around him. And that's the same thing I said about Ben Simmons, which is why I started this conversation about Ben, because I think you got to build the same way around both of them. Defense is going to be a point, but not nearly as important as surrounding them with guys that can really, really hit shots. Jamal Murray, Jet Howard, God, I can think of everybody. Anybody you can catch and shoot in this league, man. These are the people that I ultimately want to see Amen Thompson, the point guard Amen, have an opportunity to play with. Guys like Joe Harris, you know what I mean? Real shooters, man. Actual shooters so he can get them the ball. Ben Simmons like shooters, the ones that he's going to have surrounding him in Brooklyn. Seth Curry. Those are the type of guys that I genuinely think need to be playing next to Amen Thompson. So, for me, I don't know that I love the fits that are going to be available to him with the teams that are going to be looking at him. From what I've seen, Amen Thompson's likely either going to be going to Portland at the 3 spot, as to which a team should likely probably try to trade for him. But given this circumstance and this kind of thing, it takes away from my thought about him probably being the most desirable piece to trade for. I know people think he's going to Houston, so I'd imagine if someone wants him, they're going to try to trade ahead of Houston to get him, which means grabbing that Portland pick, which is likely going to be on the move no matter what. So that's why I have him going 3. But I don't know that he's more desirable to pick up than Miller anymore after doing a little more studying, a little more listening to people talk about him. And I'm not sure I haven't slipped him back down beneath Miller on my own draft board based on the concerns about how he's going to play off ball. I don't know that you can play Amen Thompson off ball at all. I think you might have a situation where people are playing off of him Westbrook style, and it could get real ugly real fast. And so that thing there could have him slipping down the draft in ways that nobody sees coming. I listened to one guy. Now, listening to him, I have to preface this by saying he put a mad high emphasis on shot making. So he doesn't give a damn if you can do anything other than shoot the ball. So when you have people like that, they're going to shoot Jet Howards and Keontae George's all the way up to like the 4th pick in their draft, because those guys are excellent shooters and they don't give a damn about anything else. I'm the opposite. So I'm going to have a different mindset than a person like this most of the time, but I still take nuggets from them because I'm listening to everybody who knows this game. And what I can say is I don't disagree with him when he says he sees a world where Amen Thompson falls all the way to 18. Now, I will tell you that my Lakers bet not pass up on Amen Thompson, especially given the fact we had Westbrook last year and basically made it work. You better believe we want Amen Thompson on draft night. But I don't think it's crazy to think that there are going to be teams that look at him and say, because I need to put the ball in his hands and surround him with shooters, and because I can't put him in any offensive situations that involve him off the ball, I can't use this ultra athlete. He's probably playing the wrong sport. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who think that way. I think it's going to ultimately come down to that. If for some reason within the next 3 years, they can't get him on the basketball floor because he can't play off ball and it doesn't necessarily work because he can't hit a shot, it's going to be a situation where his career don't take off. He's just going to be one of the greatest athletes in the NBA, but that doesn't necessarily have to translate to him to being a fantastic player in this league. And that concerns me because we're in the hyper-spacing era. We're in the era where teams don't necessarily value certain things but jump shooting, like this scout I'm talking about. So you'll have a situation where an athlete like this don't get used because he just doesn't fit in the spread the floor offense system. They can't put him in pick and rolls and having him be, certain situations without the ball in his hands. So you've gotten a situation where BDF 44 is legitimately concerned once again about Amen Thompson falling down the draft boards, as I initially was before I made my mock and went against that. I went against that because I was listening to the consensus, and I went against that because I legitimately thought that Amen Thompson, again, is somebody that somebody's going to want to trade for. And in the event that is the case, I will assume they're smart enough to make sure they have that fit already in place. So if for some reason somebody does reach up and want to get him, it shouldn't be a problem. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But even then, it's like, okay, if Portland wants to keep him, I don't think it's the worst fit in the world because he's going to be able to get the ball to some elite shooters. But when is he going to be on the floor to do that? And will he not be asked to play the 3 to do it? And that might be the way to go. See, for me, it's like, look, you can tell me that I can't play a Stuart Thompson at the point, but I'm not certain I can't move a Amen Thompson to the 3 and 4 like a Draymond. Nobody's convinced me that they can't utilize him that way. Nobody's told me that they can't utilize him like a Vanderbilt. But that would be a decreasing of what it is that you're drafting him to be, which is the problem. Like, yes, you can tell him to do those things because it probably better fit his game. But then again, you also realize you're leaving like 10 assists on the board because he's also a fantastic passer. So you might want to utilize that to get the most of what he's going to be drafted to be. So I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put him on a situation where I already got a point guard. And I'm certainly not going to put him in a situation where I got a Ben Simmons or a Draymond Green. So there's certain places that even though this is the highest level order athlete, there's certain places he just can't go. You know what I mean? There's certain teams that you already can say, all right, he's not going there. And because of that, his value has to be accounted for in regards to the negativity of that. Because I'm not going to have that problem with Hendricks. I'm not going to have that problem with some of the guys, Miller. I'm not going to have that problem with any of them dudes in that range. Cam Whitmore is not going to give me that issue. So it's like, when I assess Amen Thompson for real, like the actual way I assess it, when you remove the fact that he's a superior athlete who in any sport would likely destroy the metrics of that sport regardless, I don't know that he didn't pick the wrong sport for himself. I don't know that he didn't, y'all. And I'm just saying that as somebody who hasn't watched a lot of him, but is now starting to understand how the NBA operates. And it's like, yo, if this was a different era where jump shooting wasn't so much of a thing to where people think you can't play because you can't shoot, this would be easy going. Because a player like that would be able to play his game, and it wouldn't be a pick and roll type of spread the floor type of offense to where he would just get to the basket, take advantage of foulers, people who are fouling him as he drives at the rim. You know what I mean? He could just dart the ball over the floor and all of that. But the problem is, that's only when he has the ball in his hands. And in a league like where you have multiple guards, multiple ball handlers, multiple playmakers, he also has to be somebody who can be a recipient of some things. You play with a guy like LeBron James, he's making plays for you. You can't shoot. You get on a team with OKC, Giddey's making plays for you. You can't shoot. And this keeps going on all over the place. Every league, everywhere you look in the league, you're going to find that dynamic. And if you don't, then what you'll find is they're too eccentric to one player making the offense go. So if Amen goes down with an injury, their whole offense is shot. Because the only way it works is if they're getting the ball, he's getting the ball to others. So it just becomes a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you, when you really want to assess it. There are going to be people who ignore all of this because of his athleticism. The problem is, once they get him to their arena, once they get him in the uniform, they're going to have to figure this out. And so that's going to be something that maybe it's not going to be as difficult. Maybe the jump shot comes around. Maybe they have time to develop him. Hopefully he goes to a team like the Spurs. Something like that. You know what I mean? Obviously he's not going to Spurs, but a team like that to where they are not at all thinking about winning a championship this year, but more so trying to build and develop. So with that being said, I think Houston could be a decent spot, and it looks like that's where he's headed. I think I have Kevin Porter Jr. rated higher than maybe a lot of other people, so I'm not as huge on letting him go in most scenarios. But I don't know that I probably don't choose Amen over him going forward, if not for all of this stuff we've been talking about right here, which ultimately thinks that this may not necessarily be a situation where that's the smart move. So I understood that Porter's a point guard who can play some shooting guard. So if you want to slip him to the shooting guard, that's going to be fine. But of course, you got Green in place. And I think what everybody's imagining right now is Green and Amen Thompson being the best two athletes on the same team in the game. The problem is if one of them has such a glaring shooting deficiency, it's going to take away from what it is that they ultimately bring to the table, and that is the problem. When you got Green down there, who already is an artist who shoots shots that probably should not be taken a lot of times. Green's going to jack up threes, all kinds of different step backs, all kinds of stuff that he can do. If you also got him being inefficient and Amen Thompson, their development is going to go funny, and I ain't talking about anything you want to laugh at. So I'm not in love with that fit. I do like the idea that they got Smith in place. Do I look at Martin as a shooter? I guess Martin's shot enough threes to make me feel like he's going to be a good shooter going forward. Not a great one, but like good enough to where it shouldn't be a problem. But like Jae'Sean Tate, I don't know where he slips in on the lineup. I just don't know. Like, I read somewhere that a Rockets fan was essentially saying, I can't see us taking Amen Thompson because we are a bad shooting team and we don't have shooters. You got Alperen Sengun. He's not a shooter. Amazing center, but not somebody you're going to have parking it from behind the arc all night. He can hit him, but you're asking him to do too much if you do. Smith, yes, shooter at the power forward position. Okay, that's not where you want all of your shooting to come from. Ideally, you want some other guys to be able to shoot too. So this is what you're looking at, and then you further down the depth chart, and it's like, where's the shooters at? So you're going to tell me you're going to bring in the worst shooter in the draft, and you already got a team that only has like basically one real shooter, and you're telling me that you're going to pass up on a real shooter potentially in Miller if he's on the board? Not to say that most people think he'll be on the board at 3 and 4, but if for some reason he is on the board, that would probably be a better fit. I'm more likely to want to trade up if I'm Houston to get Miller, or trade back or take somebody else other than Amen Thompson for my fit in my mind. Because at the end of the day, all that athleticism don't being squat if them shooters can't shoot. And the rest of your team has to be eccentric with only one guy having the ball in his hands to make the offense go. It doesn't quite fit, man. I'm going to tell y'all the truth. It doesn't quite fit. I'm not saying that what Houston has right now they should be excited with their point guard position, because maybe they don't feel that way. Although I like Porter a lot. I think his upside is going to be pretty good if he figures out the turnovers and stuff. But like, you give up on him at like 23 years old, whatever he is right now, when he's clearly shown you he's going to be a high-level, star-level player for many years, regardless if you believe in him or not. He's going to do his thing somewhere else. So you're going to let go of that guy, bring in the athlete, Amen, and then have even more shooting issues. I know they got a couple picks in this draft. They got plenty of assets they can trade. So if they want to get shooters, they can shuffle some things around. Obviously, if you're bringing in James Harden, I think it helps you a lot that he can obviously make that a strength of his. But like, what happens with Green if you're bringing in Harden and you got Amen Thompson? They're all supposed to be guards. That's 3 starting guards in 2 positions. So now I see a situation where maybe you're putting the ball in James Harden's hands. Amen Thompson's playing off ball with James Harden. We already talked about that. That's going to work. I don't think so. And then where does Green fit in? So basically you're going to ask Amen to play the 3 anyway. Wouldn't it be best to trade back and take Ausar? Because he probably fits the Rockets more than the men does. So these are the type of things like, yo, I'm not certain the Rockets don't take Ausar and leave him in on the board. Because he does fit better. He fits better because they can literally use him to what it is to. They can use him to be what it is that he is without getting rid of anything. And still bring in James Harden. If you bring in him in, you got to shake around that roster a lot more. So that's something I'm thinking about, man. That's something I'm thinking about as well. And if I'm Houston, you know what I mean? I don't think Cam Whitmore is the best pick for me because we already have that in Martin. We already had it in some other avenues. But I think it could be fun if you put Whitmore there. Obviously, Jarris Walker's from Houston. And I don't think I've given Jarris Walker enough credit. I actually think he might be my favorite player in the draft. He might be. And I just ain't talked about him as much for some reason. But he was the first player that popped off the screen when I first started doing homework. Big defensive guy. I told you guys about Scotty Barnes when I first did homework on him 2 years ago. Jarris Walker reminds me of Scotty Barnes. That's exactly what he reminds me of. A big, huge defender that can get out on the perimeter and guard a lot of people. Am I certain I'm not taking him for Houston over Amen Thompson? Not after doing homework on what the off-ball concerns could be. I'm probably going to take Jarris Walker and just bring him home since he played for Houston, send him to Houston. But I don't know that that's the best use of the 4th overall pick. I don't know that. especially if something crazy happened in Miller's falls. Ain't no way I'm taking Jarris Walker over Miller at this stage. I think Miller's just, I think you just need, you overall see a more talented piece there. But Jarris Walker doesn't fall past 7 to me. He goes right to Indy, and I don't know if my speculation is correct, but it seems to me that Indy really wants him. I think Orlando may actually have some interest in him as well. That's a highly covetable piece. Maybe it would be more beneficial to draft that player more so, and then try to see if one of them teams would be willing to trade with you after you already have him in roster. Because I'm telling you, Amen, if people watch what it is I just saw in regards to Amen, and start doing more homework, they're gonna start getting colder feet as they get closer to the draft. It's just going to come down to the style of the modern era and where you think the league is going, and will shot making still be a premium going forward? And I think listening to most people who are talking about the game, it is going to be a thing. You are going to probably see more Jet Howards be more prominent in today's NBA than maybe a guy like Leonard Miller or something like that, because the shot making is at all-time premium. People just really value the pretty stuff. But I know what it looks like when you only have those guys on the team. That's why I'm so gung-ho on not getting a bunch of jump shooters, because if you only have jump shooters and that's the only thing you're valuing, you're not going to have basketball being played. That's not going to be basketball. It's going to be a bunch of people shooting jumpers. You're not going to have any cohesive play. You're not going to have any defense. Rebound is going to be choppy. It's going to be ugly. So I respect that a guy can dribble and shoot. It looks pretty, especially in a video game. But in a real basketball game, when you need a lot of things to be done, if that's all you got, you're losing bad too. So that's what I understand. Just too much basketball being watched over the years, played the video game too many times with just nothing but jump shooters to know what it looked like in so many different variations. It's trash. You definitely need facilitators, rebounders, guys are going to set screens, guys are going to cut to the basket, all kinds of different stuff that guys need to come together and have for you. So if all you need is jump shooters or a couple of shot makers, then of course you need to prioritize that, like I think the Lakers need to. Our team needs to. But some of these other teams that already had that stuff, you Golden State, do not go ahead and do the Golden State thing and grab you a Jordan Poole because you already got Steph and Clay, and shot making is your god. You do that, and you're going to look exactly like the Golden State Warriors right now, outside of the finals. Period. You need other stuff. That's why in my mock draft, I had them drafting Ryan Rupert. I think they need to go after somebody like that. Bilal Calabi, if he would be around, since most people don't think he will be, but if he's there, Golden State needs to take him. Lively, if Lively's available, Golden State needs to take him. Like, they don't need to be thinking about shooting. You got Baldwin coming up out of nowhere next year that's going to take on a big role, just like Christie in LA. You don't need to be drafting no damn shooters. No more shot makers, none of that funny little cute stuff. You got all of that. You got plenty of that. Grab yourself some dirty work, hardcore guys. Also, here's something else I was thinking about in Amen Thompson. Just to skip back to where we were at there. So when I was thinking about him and what fits I think work for him, well, I'm looking at what Dallas is trying to do, trying to poach LeBron James from us. That's misguided as hell. You don't want to spend $200 million on LeBron James. Trade your 10th pick up to Houston and get Amen Thompson and put him next to Luka and put him next to Kyrie and let that piece bring them two together, just like Ben Simmons was supposed to do KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn. That's the solution there. That's exactly what you do. And then when Kyrie, whatever happens with Kyrie goes by the wayside, you got Amen Thompson and you got Luka Doncic to go forward. And for some reason, Luka Doncic's out. You got Amen Thompson to be athletic and hopefully be a facilitator from which you can bring shooters instead of Kyrie and Luka Doncic. If for some reason something goes terribly wrong, you got the draft rights to a potential star, also a potential player that doesn't work out, but you also got the blank canvas from which to build the right things around them, aka what Ben Simmons got going on in Brooklyn, if they were to choose to do so. Not necessarily after some of the stuff they've done, but nevertheless, that's the point I'm trying to make is this. You got the place to bring Amen Thompson to see the fit in 365 degrees. The only problem with that is, how the hell is he going to play off the ball with Luka Doncic? That's the only thing. In this situation, he wouldn't be. You would have him playing key roles on the Dallas Mavericks throughout the course of this season as a rookie. He ain't going to be the point guard. He's going to be a glue guy, facilitator, defensive specialist, rebounding specialist. I would give him very specific roles as a rookie. And he would have a prominent role because we don't have no damn defense. So he's definitely going to be playing a lot. Amen Thompson will probably be rookie of the year because I'm going to have him doing a bunch of stuff down there that's going to mirror so many different players that ultimately he's going to do everything for me that Kyrie and Luka ain't gonna do, and he's athletic enough to do it. That's the thing. No mileage on his legs whatsoever, and probably the most athletic player in the world. Not named Zion, not named Giannis. So for me, it's like that's exactly what I want next to Luka Doncic. Somebody who's going to take their overpriced selves and provide in one body a bunch of stuff that they need at a low price. Defense, rebounding, rim protection, all of that. Amen Thompson should be able to take care of a lot of that. Not all of it, but a lot of that. And then I just need Kyrie and Luka Doncic just play off each other like they've been doing. My turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. And Amen Thompson can leak out in easy situations off of defense, get easy buckets, leak out, play some Dorian Finney-Smith type stuff except for the three-point shooting, leak out, do all kinds of different things, catch lobs, and just ultimately be who they're going to need him to be. You want them to likely draft Jarris Walker. He won't be there. You want them to likely draft Taylor Hendricks. I'm certain that if Taylor Hendricks is on the board at 10, people have done things incorrectly. So it's just a lot of stuff there where I'm saying, yo, if I'm Dallas, I could reach for Lively at 10 and be cool. I could go with Grady and maybe be pleased with that, or Hawkins, and just continue the three-point shooting and forget basketball entirely, figure out how to do other things later and just take the best player and hope to God that Luka and Grady look great 2 years from now when none of this even matters anymore. Or I can take my 10th pick, maybe match a guy, some salary somehow, maybe take Green or something, put it together, and package that to Houston and try to see if they'll give me the 4th overall pick and then draft Amen Thompson myself. And if for some reason Amen's gone, I'm still getting a fantastic player like Jarris, like Hendricks, to secure that I get that piece instead of having to reach for Lively or take something that doesn't fit our need or settle for something that ain't necessary. No, Dallas needs to make a trade, and that trade needs to be for a higher pick. I would be calling Portland. I would be calling Houston. I would be calling Detroit. I would be calling Orlando. I would call anybody that would want my 10th pick, because at the end of the day, they're going to be people who want to trade down, who want to trade up, all of that. So Dallas should be able to get themselves involved in a situation that allows for them to get a higher pick somehow. They don't have a lot of assets. So trading away the pick or settling for something that may pop, already seen what Willie Cauley-Stein look like in their uniform. They don't really do a whole lot with centers. So if they draft Lively, I'm not certain they'll even want to play him based on what we've seen. So it's like you should probably trade up, get one of them higher picks, and snatch up Amen Thompson or Jarris Walker so you can solidify some of this stuff and have that key piece that you need on a rookie contract. That's what they need to do. Amen Thompson or Jarris Walker is probably the move for me if I'm Dallas. You just trade up a couple spots because you're not going to be available where you at. But one of them Thompson twins will likely be there if you can get in at 6. If you can try to get that from Orlando. If you can try to get that from Houston. So that's what I think, man. That's exactly what I think. Because Houston's in a spot where, I mean, Amen Thompson is, for me, I just don't love the pick. I don't love that for them. I don't love Amen Thompson for the Houston Rockets, really. I like the idea of putting him next to Green in a nutshell. But that's me ripping away everything else. And I'm not ripping everything else away from the Houston Rockets. I'm not going to do that. Is he the best fit for Alperen Sengun? I love the idea of putting him next to Green, but Sengun is a mainstay for me as a Houston. If I was a Houston fan, he's not going anywhere. So if he's a non-shooter and Amen's a non-shooter and that's my core, we're already starting the wrong way. And then I got Green. I'm supposed to be making him happy with that. Having his two best players, 2 non-shooters in this era. You're getting started on the wrong path, and you're gonna bring yourself overpriced James Harden to try to make that a champion. I don't see it. I don't see it in any way, shape, or form. I think that's misguided. I think it's backwards. I think it's going to fail. So that's what I want to say there. Another good place for Amen Thompson with that same basketball model in mind is Phoenix, but I just don't think they can package anything that they have together to get into that range. They don't have a 10th pick to offer somebody or anything like that. They don't have nothing that anybody would want. But I would love to see Amen Thompson in a situation next to Booker, next to KD. They're doing all the shooting. You can just do everything else. And so that's the type of stuff I think would be best, man. Putting the ball in his hands, asking him to be a point guard, and then struggling with what happens schematically when you do that, unnecessary. Unnecessary in the first couple of years, especially when he does have such a phenomenal athletic body. You just got to find a way to harness that athleticism and leave all that other stuff that can't be utilized properly off the floor somehow. And that's what's going to be the key for the coach that gets Amen Thompson. in my opinion. And if they can get the most out of him, then they'll have a perennial all-star. But if they try to put the ball in his hands or try to have him do some of the stuff that makes his weaknesses glare, and then sit there and say, oh my God, he's struggling. Yes, he's going to struggle. That's how that works. So we need to get that part understood before that boy plays a single minute of summer league. That jumper is a real thing because he's going to have the ball in his hands 90% of the time if he's utilized to what it is he's supposed to be. And in this era, that don't work. That doesn't work if you can't hit a damn jumper. People can go into these screens on you, crowd out the people you're passing to. It doesn't work. So, it's just one of those situations where it's like, Amen Thompson could really slip, y'all. He could really slip. Or a team could really take him and be really unhappy after they do that. That's what could end up happening. So I'm thinking about that. I've been thinking about these various different things, and I still feel like the Clippers need to blow their entire situation up. If anybody has the pieces to trade up to get Scoot, to trade up to get Miller, to trade up to get Amen, it's those two guys. Because at the end of the day, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are going to get you a return that will make it so that somebody will come up off one of them picks. If I'm Michael Jordan and you offer me Paul George, I'm going to give you that pick. So that's what people need to understand. The Clippers are in the driver's seat if they want to fix their situation, or they can continue to go forward and roll the dice. But as far as I can tell, they're in a prime position to have their key superstar in place if they just believe in themselves enough to make the move. Believe that it's okay to move on from something. Because if they wait too long on this Paul George, Kawhi Leonard train, you will not be able to get that type of value for those guys. So, Clippers will clip, man. That's what I have to say. It ain't going to be no skin off of me if they don't do the right thing. But I'm telling you, that Paul George, Kawhi Leonard thing, I don't see nothing for that anymore. And I see a prime opportunity to get in this draft, get one of them high picks, and start over. And teams are afraid to do that. What if he doesn't pop? What if it doesn't work? Okay, what if it don't? Fair enough. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay on that side of safe, and the best talent will develop in other places and won't come your way. That's what happens if you don't develop talent. That's what happens if you do stay on the train of the old superstar. Let's bring James Harden to us. Let's bring Chris Paul to us. Let's do it that way. Okay, do it that way, and everybody else will have the best talent. So, won't hurt my feelings. Also, I think I might have to look at Taylor Hendricks again. For those who watch my mock draft, I do love his style for what it is I want him to do to play the three, but I do believe that I've come around to understand that he's not a three, and you probably are asking him to do a little more wiggly stuff than he should be doing at the three spot. So that affects some things in regards to what I see in my mock draft. Maybe I feel a bit less comfortable sending him to Detroit, asking him to play the three if for some reason I want Wiseman and Duren to play those two spots. I don't really know if I like Taylor Hendricks to play the three there. I don't like Cam Whitmore playing the three there. So that's really a thing for me. I know a lot of people say, oh, Cam Whitmore, we're going to send him straight to Detroit. That's a best pick, best fit. I don't see that as the best fit. I legitimately see him having a style clash with some of the other players that need to be on the floor. If they don't get rid of Stewart, if they still want to do this Wiseman-Duren thing, there are going to be situations where Cam is just not going to fit on the team very well. You got Bojan Bogdanovic. They're going to try to showcase him again this year, try to trade him some more, have him taking like 18 shots. No. And then you got Ivy and Cunningham, who are going to be excellent players to get him the ball. So I'm not worried about that fit. That looks fine. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to find yourself in a situation where you know for a fact, an absolute fact, that it can be a situation where you got too many people trying to attack the paint at the same time. So that's my concern right there with Wiseman, Duren, and potentially one of those forwards that look like could go to the Detroit Pistons. I don't know that the Pistons don't trade down since they don't really have a need for that high of a level star in this draft. In my humble opinion, you can always use more talent. Don't get it twisted. But I don't know if Cam Whitmore is really what they need when you consider they were tanking to get Wembanyama. Now, with that being said, if they would have got Wembanyama, what the hell would they do with all these centers? So that's a whole other conversation. I think if I'm a team that needs a center, I'm going to call Detroit, and I'm going to see if I can get one of those centers out of there. Because it doesn't look like they really have a plan for that at all. Just to be completely honest with everybody, it seems to me that they have zero plan for ultimately what happens in the event that both of those centers pop and desire starters minutes based on how they're playing. You can't have them dudes interchangeable like this. You know what I mean? So rather than even go down that path with Detroit, I would try to see if I'm Phoenix. Obviously, they're trying to get rid of Ayton. I'm not sending them there. But if I'm Dallas, if I'm the Lakers, all these teams that could use a real center, San Antonio, since I really don't think Wembanyama should be playing the center right away, let him have somebody off of him doing that stuff so he can play the perimeter a bit more, play a little weak side a little more, stuff like that. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting myself a center. Maybe Brooklyn if they're moving off from Claxton. All of those teams need to be calling Detroit, seeing what's up, try to get one either Wiseman or Duren from them. Because as far as I could tell, to be really honest, it looks like Detroit has no direction right now. No direction. And they're just going to say, okay, we got a jambalaya of young kids. Which one of y'all can do it? And if you ask me, that's a bullcrap way to develop them. That's a bullcrap way to develop. So they need to make more sense of their roster, and it should be easy enough to do that if they make a couple trades here. So that's what I want to say, man. I don't see the fit that people are talking about with Detroit. That team, in fact, that team doesn't fit at all. Even right now, the pieces that they have don't really come together to me. So that's what I want to say there. I would not be upset at a little bit of a shakeup. You keep Ivy. I'm not 100% certain on Cunningham. I'm not. I think the injury issues are real. I think the lack of athleticism is real. I'm not quite sure where he's at. I know he's gonna play well. Just like I said about Porter, you send him somewhere else, he's gonna do his thing there. I know that. But for Detroit and what his value's worth today, for what it is that they hope he'll become and what they could probably get a return for him today, I don't know that his value doesn't go down, down, down from here on out, rather than up, up, up. So that's what I'm saying. He'll play well, but for Detroit, now you got Ivy in place. And you're gonna bring in another high-level lottery pick and Duren and all this other. It's just like, all right. Monty Williams, I'm pretty sure is a hell of a coach. He can make it work. But if for some reason we start having more issues with Cunningham and his injury issues, that's going to eat away at the overall upside of that team, and that don't have to happen. I'll trade Cunningham right now for the second overall pick, bring myself Scoot Henderson, don't have those issues. You see what I'm saying? So Cunningham, if you ask BDF 44, Cunningham may be on the move for me. Now, I'm not saying that's what Detroit's doing. I ain't heard that. But as I assess Detroit, and I know where we could go, all we got to do is make sure we have the right kids. And we got this kid that we drafted with the first overall pick 2 years ago, and he only played like 30 games for us since. He's on the move. He's going to be out. I'm going to be shopping him for Jaylen Brown. I'm going to be shopping him for all kinds of other stuff that people don't see coming. He's going to be on the move. So that's where I'm at with that, man. I think Detroit's going to be just fine with Ivy as their point guard. They can afford to get more certainty going on with that Cunningham piece. They really can, especially when you consider what he can get you. So, like, these are things that have been going through my head all day because a lot of these players in this draft do not fit where they're going. So if you could take a Cunningham and turn him into one of those players, you can send Cunningham to a place where he fits and bring that player to you where they'll fit. But teams got to be willing to do that. You know, they got to see the fruit in doing that, and I don't think a lot of teams will be willing to take that risk because at the end of the day, you're resetting a development process. So a lot of teams don't want to go that route. But we'll end up being forced to any dang way. So they might as well. So that's what I got. That's what I got for that. Also, Washington. If you love Anthony Black, then you're probably in a good spot. But I think there's a chance Anthony Black may actually go earlier. So you may want to try to get a closer pick. If you're the Washington Wizards, you may want to try to trade up to assure you get whatever it is you truly want. Because I'm telling you, even everybody thinks that Anthony Black is going to fall to 8. But I can see a scenario where Orlando says, you know what, I like him as a big guard for us. Maybe Azur Thompson doesn't fit as well. Maybe we're going to move on for some guards. I can see a situation where the cerebral nature of having multiple ball handlers and point guards on the team for Indiana may be intriguing to them to bring Black to Halliburton, have a 2-guard situation. As I said, they already got Smith at the power forward. They may not love him, but maybe not enough to pass up on Black, depending on how much they feel about him. So this is a lot of stuff that I'm saying. If you're the Washington Wizards, you're in a weird spot because you're one of the few teams at the top of the lottery that don't have a whole lot of other stuff. Houston got plenty of lottery equity. Detroit, plenty of lottery equity. Orlando, plenty of lottery equity. It goes on and on. Washington can't afford to not get this right. The stuff that they got doesn't really have a whole lot of value to begin with. You're talking about Porzingis, Denny Avdija is okay, but he didn't hit. Corey Kispert's solid, but he didn't hit like a. You know, they didn't get a whole lot out of what they drafted. Porzingis value, Kuzma's a free agent. You know, they just don't have a whole lot. So when I look at the Washington Wizards, I'm saying, look, if we are so confident that we can get our guy at 8, standing pat is perfect. but we're going to mess around and not get our guy. So let me try to take something and try to take this 8th pick as well and try to get into that 5 range, 4 range. Let me call Portland, see if they want to give me 3. That's the move for Washington. You don't want to settle at 8. 8 is not the greatest spot unless he falls to you. Because if I'm Washington and I end up with Cason Wallace, is he moving the needle for me? Probably not. Grady Dick moving the needle for me? Not with what I have. Maybe lucky and get Cam Whitmore falling to me. That would be awesome. That's star power. Still not gonna move the needle. You need a point guard. So it's like, I personally don't think that Amen Thompson is a great fit for them. I actually think Anthony Black is probably the better fit there. If they can get Scoot Henderson, that's great, but I don't know how the hell they would get that. I just think they would get outbid for the 2nd overall pick or the 3rd overall pick. They would get outbid. But the 4th pick may be in play for the 8th pick, depending on what Houston wants to do. 5th pick, maybe Detroit thinks the way I'm thinking, moves back and try to maybe take Black themselves. You know what I mean? Move Cunningham out, although I like Cunningham a little more than Black, to be honest with you, because Cunningham stretches the floor a little. He's a big guy, so I'm not really sure about that. But the point is, if I'm Washington, I'm uneasy, man. I think there's a chance I might not get my guy. I think there's a chance I might end up having to settle for something else. And I don't know that if you have Bradley Beal, if you need to be thinking about Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins or anything like that, you don't need to be doing that. You're gonna reach on a guy like Coulibaly just to get him away from OKC or something. No. If you're Washington, what you need is to swing for the fences and hit something. Hit it out of the park. So if you could take this pick and turn it into something that you put next to Bradley Beal, that might be the way to go. You probably don't even want to get younger, really. You probably want to get something that can be really solid. You probably want to be the team that gets Kevin Porter or something. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they have their eyes in Toronto. Maybe they can try to sign Fred VanVleet if for some reason they don't get their point guard. There are the guards that may be available, D'Angelo Russell. But you start seeing what the options are for the Washington Wizards. Trading up probably takes away from some of that risk of what it is they can ultimately get. And they probably can't afford any more risk. So these are things going through my mind, man. I've been thinking about this stuff all night because at the end of the day, with the draft approaching, what I cannot shake is my view on some of these players and how they're going to be slotted doesn't agree with a lot of people who are seeing, shooting and shot makers is more important. I think people are thinking foregone conclusions about certain fits that I just don't see. Like Whitmore to Detroit, I don't see it. Even though it could fit, I don't think it fits right. He's going to play well there, but it's not going to be that dynamic that's going to help them get over the top. He's just going to be another fantastic dunking scorer on a team that probably gets to the 8th seed or something. Like, no. If Whitmore goes to Utah Jazz, that's a contending team. You see what I'm saying? And that's another thing. I'll be very disappointed in Utah if they take a guard with their first pick. Don't take a guard with your first pick. Do not pass on Taylor Hendricks for Cason Wallace. Do not pass on, any of the big forwards if they're there, if you're the Utah Jazz. Why? Because you're likely, in my humble opinion, to have a very good chance to get a point guard or a solid point, some type of Jalen Hood-Schifino or something at 16. That's why Utah must not take a guard with their first pick, because you're more than likely to have your pick of the litter of guards with your second pick. And not as many forwards with your second pick. That's the key to it. It's going to be nothing but guards back there in that range. So that's why I get really, really irritated with people who are taking Cason Wallace or Jordan Hawkins with the Utah Jazz, because you're going to turn around and find out you have to take yet another guard with that 16th pick more than likely. And maybe you like that, but for the Jazz who have Clarkson already in place, I think they only have a need for one guard. Maybe you want to place Colin Sexton, but eventually you start looking at THT's in place. He's going to need the ball in his hands. Agbaji's shooting the ball. They got a lot of guards already. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thing about the Utah Jazz. They definitely have a need for a point guard, and I would love for them to get Anthony Black or Jalen Hood-Schifino, and maybe you do take Anthony back if he falls to you. But I think even if you do, there's a damn good chance that you're going to probably take another guard at 16. So for me, it's like Hendricks. If Jarris falls, even though I don't see that, if one of the Thompson twins falls, you do that. Although they're guards too. Maybe Ausar Thompson, if he falls to you, that's okay for Utah. I'm not in love with, but okay with it. But for me, it's like, please do yourself a favor and take Taylor Hendricks if he's there. Do yourself a favor and snatch one of those forwards, because that's going to be ultimately was more than likely not as available in that 16 range. So that's what I want to say. It drives me crazy when I see them taking guards first. So that's one thing I'm looking at. And also Orlando with the 2 picks they have. I'm so married to Jarace Walker going to the Pacers, but I initially told you guys that I really have a dream scenario for the Orlando Magic where they take Jarace Walker and Cason Wallace, because that would give them two of the best defensive players, two-way defensive players in the entire draft. But I also understand they have a need for shooting, so they should probably be the landing spot for a guy like Grady or Hawkins, or even trading up for Miller. I haven't thought too much about that though. But Hawkins or Grady, I think that would be a good spot for them too in Orlando. So I don't know if the overly defensive, tandem would be like on the list for things that are possible for Orlando. But in my dream scenario, they walk away with the best 2 defenders in the draft. So that means they take Jarace with the 6th pick, which I don't have them doing, but you do that, and then with the 11th pick, you take. If Hendricks is available, I snatch him too, but not for Orlando. You know what I mean? But it's one of those type of situations where that's what I would want to do with 2 picks in that range. Give me the best defensive players. Some may say give me the 2 best shooters. Give me Grady, give me Hawkins. That could be interesting too. So it's a lot of different things that can be done. I have a dream scenario for the Thompson twins where somebody trades up and has both of them. That would be really interesting. Team like the Clippers just trade both of their guys and say, yo, give me 3 and give me 4, and let's put the Thompson twins together and do it like that. Only problem with that is, as strange as it sounds, I don't know if I want them 2 players on the same team based on their shooting issues. How crazy is that? I'm not sure. Especially if they're going to be my number 1 and my number 2. Because that's exactly what you're drafting them to be. It's $150 million players, both of them. So it's like, whoa. Is that the best way to build going forward? When you think about the synergy those 2 have had playing with each other their whole lives, maybe. Maybe. Honestly. But that's something that could be interesting if Brooklyn were to do something like that, or the Clippers or something like that. I think that would be really interesting. So yeah, man, that's my talk right now. I just want to give y'all a little more what it is I'm looking at. I'm starting to understand that Jet Howard's dribbling ability is something that's a plus. He can't rebound, but he ball handles better than most 6'8" guys. And because he can shoot like a madman, it's just going to be really pretty. Problem is, you 6'8", you don't board, and you don't defend. You got to be doing some hellacious Kyrie Irving ass dribbling, bro. I kid you not. That better be some Kyrie handles. That's all I got to say. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching.